Okay, hi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good day to all of you. Alright, so now we will go with chapter number 2, okay, which will be on demand and supply. Okay, so what you will find in this topic is basically on the what do we mean by demand as well as supply. Okay, so which means demand is related to consumers and supply is related to producers. So when we want to understand demand, we have to put ourselves as a consumer in the economy. And if we want to understand the law of supply, we have to put ourselves as a producer in the economy. Okay, so what I will cover in this chapter is basically on the concept of demand and supply, and then we are going to learn about what factors that can change demand and supply in the economy. So the usual factor that you might be it might be easy for you to understand is basically price. Okay, for example, in terms of demand, if the price of a particular product increase, okay, usually your purchase will be lesser. Okay, when the price of a product becomes more expensive, you will buy lesser, or when the price becomes cheaper, you will buy more. So one of the factors that we will find in this topic is price, okay, which is the main factor. And then we are going to look at the other factors, okay, other than price. Okay, and we are going to also look at the price elasticity of demand and other types of elasticity. Okay, elasticity here means we are going to look at the responsiveness of consumer when there is a change in the price of a particular product. Okay, and then we are going to look at the second part of this topic, which is on supply. So the same thing, we are going to understand the concept of supply, and then we are going to look at what factors that can affect supply or production, and we are going to look at the elasticity of supply, okay, and also different types of elasticity. Okay, so for that elasticity part, I'm going to explain further later on. Okay, so let's go to the first slide here, which is on the definition of demand. Okay, so what do we mean by demand? It is defined as the ability and willingness to buy specific quantities of goods in a given period of time at a particular price. Okay, so we are talking about ability and willingness. Okay, stop here. Oops. Okay, so ability here means a person is able to buy. Able meaning afford to buy a certain product. Okay, afford to buy. Willingness means the person or the consumer wants that particular product. So the person or the consumer must be able and must be willing to buy that specific product at a specific quantity in a given price. At a given price. So if the product is sold, for example, a piece of cloth is sold at 20 ringgit. So if you want to buy that cloth at 20 ringgit, you must be able, meaning you afford to buy, you have that 20 ringgit with you, and you want that particular cloth. Then we have demand. Okay, already. So demand is about ability and willingness to buy a certain product at a certain price. Then you already have demand in an economy by consumers. So demand is made by consumers. Okay, and then we have different types of goods, okay, in that exist in an economy. So usually the goods that we can buy are economic goods. Okay, so we have here three types of different goods. We have free goods, okay, which are goods that have no production cost. So these free goods meaning these goods you can get for free. For example, water or sunlight, the oxygen, okay, those are considered as free goods. Okay, meaning you don't have to pay anything to obtain that kind of goods. Okay, public goods are goods that are for common use and will benefit everyone. So where do you always see public goods? Let's say if you go to public hospitals, if you go to public clinics or public schools, as well as public parks. Okay, so those are places in which you can get these goods for free, usually for free, or you have to pay some amount. But these goods are actually provided for most of the people in the economy, so everyone can get access to public goods. Okay, and then we have the third one, which is economic goods, okay, and economic services. So economic goods are tangible products, meaning you can see the product, and it is a good that can be seen and touched, and you have to pay to get these economic goods. For example, you want to buy clothes, you want to buy shoes, you want to buy a house, a car. So those are the products that you can see with your eyes. Okay, economic services, meaning you are buying intangible products or intangible goods, meaning we are talking about services lah. Okay, for example, when you go to school, you get services in terms of education. When you go to hospitals, you get services in terms of medical care. Okay, or you go to restaurants, you get services in terms of food. Okay, food services. Or you go to hotels and so on. So those are the kind of economic services in which you have to pay, okay, to obtain that kind of services. So economic goods and economic services, they have production costs, and they come with a certain price. Alright. Okay, next, now we are going to understand the law of demand. Okay, so there are a few things that you have to put into consideration. Okay, the things are about price. Okay, law of demand states that the higher the price of a good, the lower is the quantity demanded. So now the law of demand is actually looking at the relationship between price level and the quantity demanded by consumers. So if, like I said just now, okay, when there is a change in price of a certain product, there will be a change in the amount of products that you want to buy. Okay, so now you put yourself as a consumer and you want to buy a certain product. So if, let's say, the price of the product increase, okay, or the price of the product becomes more expensive, what will happen is you tend to buy less of that particular product. Okay, you will not buy more because the price has become more expensive. Okay, and if, what happens if the price becomes cheaper? Okay, when price becomes cheaper, you tend, as a consumer, you tend to buy more, so your demand will increase, the quantity demanded will increase. So this is what we call as a negative relationship, because when price increase, quantity demanded decrease. When price decrease, quantity demanded increase. Okay, so the effect is a negative effect. Okay, so we call it as a negative relationship between price and quantity. Okay, so this is what we call as the law of demand. Okay, and then you see the word here, ceteris paribus. Ceteris paribus meaning we are considering other factors as constant lah. Okay, so we are only focusing on price factor. Okay, we don't look into other factors. So you assume that other factors like income, tax, or subsidy, or price control, those are constant. Okay, to make your understanding easier. Okay, now let's look at this example. So let's say you are given this demand schedule. This table here shows the change in the price as well as the change in the quantity demanded. Okay, so what you can see here is when price becomes cheaper, the quantity demanded increase. So you will get this graph, which is actually generated from the data in this table. Okay, so let me show you how we get this graph here. So let's say you have a graph paper. So usually this kind of graph is plotted on the graph paper so that it is more accurate. So let's say I put it here just to show you how to plot the graph. Okay, so you have the price here. Let's see. Have the price on the y-axis, and then the quantity demanded on the x-axis. Put it as QD, quantity demanded in units. And then I have the price on the y-axis, which is in RM. And then I will do the scaling. For price, the scale is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then for quantity demanded, the scaling is 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Okay, so the scaling must be correct. The scaling must be accurate. If you do the range 2, 2, so 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Okay, and then for y-axis, the scaling is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So it must be consistent. Alright, so let's look at the first point, which you have here, price, okay, 5 ringgit. And when price is 5 ringgit, the quantity demanded is 2, meaning consumers are willing to buy 2 units of books, for example. Okay, so 5 ringgit, the quantity demanded is 2, which is here, the point. And when the price is decreased to 4 ringgit, what happens is consumers are willing to buy even more, which is 4 units of books. And when the price becomes lower from 4 ringgit to 3 ringgit, okay, 3 ringgit, the quantity demanded is 6. So consumers are willing to buy more. When price of the book is 2 ringgit, consumers are willing to buy 8, and price in 1 ringgit, consumers are willing to buy 10. So as you connect the points, okay, you will have a straight line supposedly. So excuse my hand here. So you label this curve as demand curve. Okay, so this is your demand curve actually, which is downward sloping. So as you can see here, your demand curve is downward sloping, and the reason is because the price and quantity, the relationship between price and quantity is negative. So when the relationship is negative, the curve will be downward from left to right. Okay, so dia akan ke bawah. Okay, sebab dia punya relationship adalah negatif. Right? Alright, so now let's proceed to the next part of this topic, which is on individual demand and market demand. So what is the difference between individual and market demand? Is that individual demand comes from one individual in the market. Okay. Meanwhile, market demand is demand that actually shows the total demand in the market. Okay, so market demand actually indicates the total demand made by all consumers in the market. For example, we are talking about the demand of shoes. Okay, let's say we have here individual demand. Okay, which means demand. Let's say one individual, I put it as person A. Okay, person A, and this is the demand for shoes by person A. Quantity demanded and price. Okay, and then you have, let me put it as small. Okay, so we have here quantity demanded and then price. And this is person A or individual A. So you have, let's say the price of shoes is 40 ringgit. Okay, and person A is willing to buy 2 pairs of shoes at the price of 40 ringgit. Okay, so let's say you have this demand curve for person A. Okay, which is here. Okay, and then you have person B. person B, and this is the demand by person B. So you have here quantity demanded, and then the price, and at 40 ringgit, which is the same price level, how much is person B willing to buy? So let's say person B is willing to buy 4 pairs of shoes, okay, at 40 ringgit, which is higher. Okay, so what happens here is you have demand by person A, which is 2, and demand by person B, which is 4. So the total demand, assuming there are only 2 persons in the market, so the total market demand is 2 plus 4, meaning at 40 ringgit, the demand for shoes will be, the total demand for shoes will be 4. So you add the demand by person A and demand by person B, you will have the total demand. Okay, so I put it here, demand, quantity demanded, then here price. So this is market demand. Okay, so the total at 40 ringgit, the total demand, the total market demand will be 6, which is 2 plus 4. So you have the total is 6. So this is the point here. So you have the market demand. I put it as double D, okay, to show that that is the demand made by all consumers in the market. Okay, so that is the difference between individual demand, okay, which is here. This is individual demand, okay, and this is market demand, which is demand made by all consumers in the market. Alright, now let's go to the next slide, okay, which is on determinants of demand. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am going to differentiate first between change in quantity demanded as well as change in demand. So what is the difference between changes in quantity demanded and changes in demand? So we have to look at the factors that can change demand. So apakah faktor-faktor yang boleh menyebabkan sama ada orang nak beli banyak ataupun orang beli sikit? So apa faktor dia? Ada 2 faktor utama, iaitu we have 2 factors that can change demand. The first one is internal factor, okay, faktor dalaman, which is price. Okay, so internal factor is price, meaning what happens to the demand when price increase or decrease. And another factors are external factors, which are factors other than price. For example, factors other than price, for example, income, okay, income level of a consumer. Okay, assuming you have higher income, usually you tend to buy more. Okay, so we are going to look at the other determinants later on, but now I'm going to focus on the difference between the quantity demanded and change in demand in terms of graph here. Okay, so you have here, let's look at the change in quantity demanded first. Okay, let's say there is a change in price, which is internal factor. Okay, internal factor that can change demand. So what will happen to the demand curve? Okay, you have here quantity demanded, and then you have here price. Okay, so let's say the price is 2 ringgit. So when price is 2 ringgit, the quantity demanded is 4, for example. So you have 1 point here. And when the price is let's say 4 ringgit, okay, the quantity demanded is let's say 2. Okay, so you have 2 points here, and then you connect the points, you will have a demand curve. So this actually shows that when there is a change in price, there will be a movement from point A to point B, or from point B to point A. Okay, so if price increase, the movement will be from point B to point A. Okay, if price decrease, there will be a movement from point A to point B. So the movement we are talking about here is actually along the same demand curve. So here we only have one demand curve. Okay, so if price increase, the movement will be from point B to point A. If price decrease, the movement will be from point A to point B. Okay, if we talk about external factors, which means we are talking about factors other than price. Okay, for example, if there is a change in income. Okay, I put Y here. Y here indicates income. Okay, so this is one of the external factors. Okay, so what happens if there is a change in income? Okay, we have the same graph. We have quantity demanded on the x-axis, and then we have price, and we have a demand curve. Let's say I put it as D0, the initial demand curve. So when there is a change in income, for example, if income increase, so usually when income increase, it means that people have more money to spend. So when they have more money to spend, demand will be higher. Okay, so demand will increase. So what happens when demand increase? Your demand curve here will shift to the right. Okay, when your demand curve shifts to the right, it means that demand has increased. Okay, and what happens if income decrease? Okay, if income decrease, people have lower income to spend, lesser money to spend. So what will happen is they will buy less. So demand will decrease. So when demand decrease, how to show demand decrease on the graph is the demand curve will shift to the left. It should be parallel, the D0 and D1 should be parallel. Okay, so the movement will be from D0 to D1, which shows that demand has decreased. Okay, so if you look at this graph here on external factors, so one of the factors that I give example here is the change in income. Alright, so what are other factors that can give impact on the market demand, whether the demand will increase, shift to the right, or decrease, shift to the left? So these are the factors here. Okay, so you look at this slide. Determinants of demand. Determinants here mean factors. Okay, what are the factors that can change demand, whether increase or decrease? So let's look at the first factor, which is on price of related goods. Okay, so price of related goods, we have two types. Okay, the first one is substitute good, and the other one is complementary goods. Okay, so if you have the textbook, you can look at the notes. Okay, we have substitute goods, and then we have complementary goods. Okay, substitute goods, in Malay, substitute means barang gantian. So if you cannot buy product A, you have the option of buying product B. Okay, contoh macam, for example, kalau dekat Malaysia, okay, in the case of Malaysia, we have contoh, let's say for example, whether you want to buy Starbucks, or you have another option which is coffee bean. So if you don't have Starbucks, you can buy coffee bean. If you don't have coffee bean, you can buy Starbucks. So let's take that as example here. Okay, so what happens if the price of Starbucks, I put it as S, increase? Okay, when price of Starbucks increase, the quantity demanded for Starbucks will reduce. Okay, meaning Starbucks become more expensive, so people will buy less, or people will reduce their purchase. So when price increase, okay, price of Starbucks increase, quantity demanded for Starbucks decrease. So what the consumers will do is they will opt for another choice, for another substitute, which is coffee bean. So what happens to the demand of coffee bean? So the demand of coffee bean will increase. Okay, so people will not buy Starbucks. Instead, people will buy coffee bean. Therefore, the demand for coffee bean will increase. And vice versa. If the price of Starbucks become cheaper, people will buy more Starbucks, and demand for coffee bean will decrease. Okay, so the opposite will happen if price of Starbucks decrease. So that explains, okay, what happens if the price that you want, the product that you want to buy has substitute. Okay, so when you have options, the price of the other products will give impact on the demand for the product that you want to buy. Okay, so that is substitute. Okay, what about complementary? Okay, complementary means a product that is required to have another product. Or in other words, if you want, for example, let me give an example to make it easier for you to understand. Let's say for coffee just now, okay, if you want to produce coffee, what you need to have is milk. So milk is a complementary product for coffee. Okay, so what happens if, let's say, the price of Starbucks increase? Okay, the quantity demanded for Starbucks will reduce, people will buy lesser, and what happens to the demand for milk? Demand for milk will also reduce. Okay, because the demand for Starbucks has reduced. Okay, so Starbucks will buy lesser milk. Okay, and what happens if the price of Starbucks reduce? When the price of Starbucks become cheaper, consumers tend to buy more, so demand will increase. Okay, quantity demanded will increase. And when the demand for Starbucks has increased, the demand for milk will also increase. Okay, so for the case of substitute goods, okay, the relationship between the price of substitute goods are negative. When the price of Starbucks increase, the demand for coffee bean will increase. For complementary, when the price of Starbucks increase, the demand for the complementary good will decrease. So negative relationship. For substitute, there will be a positive relationship. Okay, so that is price of related goods, how it gives impact on the demand of a certain product. Okay, let's look at the second determinant, which is consumers' income. Okay, so what happens when income of consumers change, which I have already shown to you in the previous slide just now on the external factor. Okay, so usually when people have higher income, they have more money to spend, therefore the demand in the market will increase. And when people have lower income, meaning they have lesser money to spend, so they will buy less. So spending will reduce, meaning demand in the market will reduce. So this is a positive relationship. Okay, another factor that can change demand is taste and trends. Usually when there is a trend in a certain period, okay, what will happen is it will give impact on the demand for that particular product. Okay, for example, if you are talking about sneakers or shoes, okay, if sneakers becomes a trend in that particular period, what will happen is people will buy more sneakers, okay, at that particular time, and the demand for other types of shoes will reduce. Okay, so that is how trends can give impact on demand of a certain product. Population or number of buyers. Of course, when you have higher population, higher number of consumers or people that will buy a certain product, the demand will be higher. Okay, usually that will happen in an economy that has larger population. Okay, so an economy with a larger population usually will have higher quantity of demand. Okay, expectation about future price. Okay, what you expect about the price of a certain product in the future. For example, if you expect that the price of for example handphones, okay, you expect, I put as PE, expected price, you expect that the price of handphones will decrease in the future, becomes cheaper. What will you do is, you will not buy handphones now, you will buy handphones in the future. So the demand for handphones, the current demand, we are talking about current demand, not future demand. So the demand for handphones now will reduce because people will decide to buy handphones in the future when the price becomes cheaper. Okay, and if consumers expect that the price of handphones to increase in the future, okay, let's say for example government increase tax in the future and so on, or the government is planning to increase the tax level, so price will become higher in the future. So what people will do, or what consumers will do, is consumers will buy more of the products now. They will not buy in the future because the price will become more expensive. So instead of buying in the future, they will buy now. So the demand now will increase. Okay. Advertisement, of course, when a particular product is marketed correctly or advertised regularly, the consumers are more aware of the products. Okay, so when consumers are aware of the product, they tend to buy more. Okay, so they know about the existence of the product. So advertisement will cause the demand of the product to increase. So the more advertisement is done for the product, the higher the demand. The lower the advertisement or the lower the marketing strategy, the demand will be lower. Okay, festive seasons and climate. A good example that I can use right now is right now we are in pandemic season, and you can see that the demand for mask has increased during pandemic. So this is the kind of season where the production of face masks will increase and the demand will increase. Same goes to hand sanitizer. Okay, so the demand for hand sanitizer right now, you can see, is increasing. So that will give impact on the price lah. Okay, when demand is increasing, the price of the product will reduce. Okay, and when the price of the product will increase. And when the demand, let's say in the future, we no longer experience COVID-19, so the demand for hand sanitizer and face mask is reducing, so the price will become cheaper again. Okay, level of taxation, of course, when the government increase tax level, okay, what will happen when tax increase? Okay, in terms of consumers, okay, tax, what will happen when tax increase is income level will reduce. Okay, let's say we are talking about income tax. When you earn income at a certain level, you have to pay income tax. So the higher the income tax, the lower the income left for you to spend. Lagi tinggi cukai, lagi kuranglah pendapatan awak sebab awak kena bayar cukai. So what will happen is demand will reduce. So increase in tax will cause demand to decrease. But if the government decides to reduce tax, what will happen is income will be higher. Okay, because people pay lesser income tax, and therefore demand will increase because people have more money in hand to spend in the economy. Okay, supply of money in the circulation. Okay, money supply. Okay, money supply is actually a topic that you will learn in the next subject, which is principles of macroeconomics, but I'm going to make it simple here for you to understand. One of the factors that can increase money supply in the economy is, for example, loan. Okay, if it is easier for people to make loans, okay, so people will have more money to spend, so demand will increase. So simply said, when money supply in the economy increase, meaning people have more money in hand, they can spend more. When there is lesser money supply in the economy, meaning people hold lesser money, so demand will reduce. Okay.